Hello, church family. Welcome to today's Sunday School lesson. We are in session 11 entitled Revealed, and our key idea this week is God reveals his plans when we trust him. And we're in Genesis chapter 4, verses 14 through 20, and then 33 through 37. So we're going to start by asking the question, how have you struggled to know God's will? I think if we're honest with ourselves, all of us have struggled with actually knowing what it is that God has planned for us, with seeing his will in our lives. We've been lost, we've been astray, and had a hard time seeing what he wants for us and what he wants us to do. If you've ever played the game Marco Polo, this is a children's game normally played in swimming pools. I would say exclusively played in the water. But one child has their eyes closed and they call Marco, and then the other children around will say Polo in response. And the kid with the eyes with their eyes closed is trying to tag the other children based off the sound and how close they are. And kids will try to fool each other by splashing or whispering really closely or really far away from the one who is trying to tag them. And so you're trying to fool, you're trying to disguise your voice, you're trying to trick the person who is it, and they are trying to figure out which direction to go. For us, though, God is not playing Marco Polo with us. He is not trying to misguide us. He is trying to guide us with good intention, and yet sometimes we feel like we are the one playing Marco Polo, the one who is it, and we're just trying to listen to all of these voices around us. We need to key in and focus on God's voice. So this chapter 40, this chapter 41, but also chapter 40 before it, pick up right after Joseph was thrown into Pharaoh's prison for the accusations that Potiphar's wife had against him. But these two chapters show how he ascended to one of the highest places in the Egyptian empire. He became really the most powerful man next to Pharaoh. It was his purity and his integrity that were tested and showed themselves time and time again to be of the best quality, and Joseph just persevered, and because of his perseverance, because of his integrity, because of his purity that he had, God blessed him, and God allowed him to climb the ranks in Egypt in order to become the most powerful man besides Pharaoh himself. So one thing that Joseph did a lot of was dream interpretation. He would have dreams, and people would have dreams, and they would come to him, and he would explain the dreams to them. And so here, he's actually interpreting Pharaoh's dreams. One about the cows being eaten. That's the one we're looking at today. But there are also other dreams that Pharaoh had that Joseph interpreted. So we're going to start by reading in verse 14, and we're going to read all the way to 21, and then we'll skip a little bit and go from 33 to 37. Let's begin reading there in 14. Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and they quickly brought him from the dungeon. He shaved, changed his clothes, and went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said about you that you can hear a dream and interpret it. Pharaoh heard this from this account of Joseph interpreting dreams from the Pharaoh's cupbearer and the baker, who had dreams, and Joseph was able to interpret those. But Joseph's answer in 16 is very interesting. He says, I am not able to, Joseph answered Pharaoh. It is God who will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 well-fed, healthy-looking cows came up from the Nile and grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, weak, sickly, and thin, came up. I've never seen such sickly cows as these in all of the land of Egypt. When the thin, sickly cows ate the first 7 the thin, sickly cows ate the first 7 well-fed cows. When they had devoured them, you could not tell that they had devoured them. Their appearance was as bad as it had been before. Then I woke up. So now we skip to 33. So now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this. Let him appoint overseers over the land and take a fifth of the harvest of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. Let them gather all the excess food during these good years that are coming under Pharaoh's authority, store the grain in the cities so that they may preserve it as food. The food will be reserved for the land during the 7 years of famine that will take the place in the land of Egypt. Then the country will not be wiped out by the famine. The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. Because our lesson skips from 21 to 33, I think it would behoove us, it would be good for us to read actually the rest of that chapter in between those verses. So let me get that pulled up right quick. CSB, I apologize. 1 second. Genesis 41. There we go. Pulling it up on my second monitor here. So starting there in verse 22, we will continue reading. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, coming up on one stalk. After them, 7 heads of grain, withered, thin, and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up. The thin heads of grain swallowed the 7 good ones. I told this to the magicians, but no one can tell me what it means. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are also 7 years. The dreams mean the same thing. The 7 thin, sickly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind are 7 years of famine. It is just as I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt. After them, 7 years of famine will take place, and all abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten. The famine will devastate the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered because of the famine that follows it, for the famine will be very severe. Since the dream was given twice to Pharaoh, it means that the matter has been determined by God, so he will carry it out soon. So, Joseph, I don't know why the lesson writers left out that very important meaning of what the dream actually was interpreted to mean, but Joseph interprets these 2 dreams are the same dream. They're just using 2 different characters, wheat and cows, and these dreams tell that there's going to be 7 really good years of produce, of wheat being produced, and then there were going to be 7 years of famine. And so there, starting in verse 33, Joseph tells Pharaoh to gather a fifth of the harvest of the land each year during those 7 years of abundance. Let them gather all the excess food during these good years so that they can be preserved for food during the famine. And then 37 says the proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. So let's first look at our first section, credit given, and see how Joseph, I keep wanting to say Daniel because Daniel also interpreted dreams, but he interpreted the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar, not Pharaoh. Okay, so first, credit given. Let's look at how Joseph stayed humble, stayed in the face of humility in this, even when presented with the information that Pharaoh knew about him because of his ability to interpret dreams. So let's read verses 14 through 16. Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and they quickly brought him from the dungeon. He shaved, changed his clothes, and went to Pharaoh. The reason he shaved is that Egyptian men were typically bald and clean-shaven. They would shave their heads bald, they would shave their faces clean, whereas Hebrew men wore beards and long hair. And they only shaved their beards, Hebrew men only shaved their beards in a demonstration of grief or shame. Well, Joseph is a Egyptian servant, and so he's going to do the culturally correct thing to appear before the king, and that is to be clean shaven. So that's why he shaved. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it, but I have heard it said about you that you can hear a dream and interpret it. I am not able to, Joseph answered. It is God who will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. So, as I said, Daniel also interpreted dreams. There's a note in our text about Daniel interpreting dreams. But we see here that Joseph was very quick to give God the credit for his gift of interpreting dreams, of his gift of discernment. That is one of the spiritual gifts that we recognize even today in 2024, is the gift of discernment, the gift of right knowledge, the gift of understanding God's will, of his word, of things around us. It is I believe that discernment is something that is God-given, because a lot of times you read the Bible, or you see things happening around us, or you interpret dreams even, and the meaning is very murky. And it would be very hard for anyone to tell you what it means unless God was giving someone that meaning. So Joseph was quick to attribute that interpretation to the Lord. God gave the dreams and was the only one who could also interpret or reveal their true meaning. So what keeps us from being like Joseph and giving God his due, giving God credit where credit is due? Well, it's very easy for us to become prideful when somebody tells us, hey, you did a great job doing such and such. We go, oh yeah, thank you for the pat on the back. I'll pat myself on the back too. Thank you very much. And we can get a big head and become prideful. And I think our pride is what keeps us from giving God credit where credit is due, because we often will attribute our hard work, our practice, our preparation ahead of time. We'll give ourselves the credit for those things instead of giving God the credit for the gift or the talent that we have. I have to say this often, but I don't have a great singing voice. I say all the time that God gives me an ear to sing on Sunday morning and Sunday morning alone. That's when he allows me to sing, and sing well, and sing on key, and sing in pitch. If it weren't for him giving me that gift, I would not be able to sing at all. And I come from a family of non-musicians. My father is tone deaf, and I somehow, by the grace of God, am able to do what I do on Sunday morning, and that's the only explanation I have. I have practiced. I do train my voice and train my ear. It doesn't seem to matter Monday through Saturday, but Sunday morning, God gives me the voice I need to sing. So let's move on to our next section, interpreting the part about the cows being consumed. This is verses 17 through 21. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 well-fed, healthy-looking cows came up from the Nile and grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, weak, very sickly and thin, came up. I've never seen such sickly ones as these in all of the land of Egypt. When the thin, sickly cows ate the first 7 cows, when they had devoured them, you could not tell that they had devoured them. Their appearance was as bad as it had been before. Then I woke up. So we see here that God gives, honestly, a very disturbing image, but one that is very clear. And Joseph wasted no time in saying that. He said, these are the same dream. We read that in verse 22. After Pharaoh, or sorry, not verse 22, verse 25, when Joseph was said, oh, these dreams are the same thing, that there's going to be 7 good years and then 7 bad years, and we need to store up grain from those 7 good years to help mitigate the damage during the 7 bad years. So can people rely on dreams alone to know the will of God? Obviously not. If we relied on only our dreams, well, I have had some very strange dreams. Sometimes my dreams are based on what I eat. Anytime I eat pepperoni pizza, I can almost bet that there is going to be some kind of weird dream during the night after. Pepperoni, I don't know if it's something in the cure of the sausage, or if it's just dairy and sauce, and I have enough heartburn that it keeps me slightly awake, that my brain does weird things. But those dreams are not from the Lord. Those dreams are not given by God as prophetic visions. Those are strange dreams indeed. So I don't think we can rely on dreams, but I do believe that God still speaks to us through dreams, through our conscience, through our ability to hear the Holy Spirit even while we're asleep. But we have to be able to interpret the dream, and that comes through the reading of God's word and knowing what his will is. If we only followed our dreams or followed our hearts, we would be led astray very quickly. And in fact, many people are. So we have to pay attention to the way that God reveals his plans. And the biggest way he reveals his plans to us is through his word. And so you notice that God didn't reveal the plan through the dream. He actually revealed the plan through Joseph interpreting the dream, giving meaning. Otherwise, it was just a disturbing dream about sick cows eating healthy cows, and kind of a graphic image at that. That would not be a dream that I would want to wake up from. It would be, that would be a dream that I would be very excited to wake up from, because I would be tired of having that dream. So how does the way God revealed the future to Pharaoh compare to other ways God reveals his plans? Well, it's just a different way. He's revealed his plans through prophets. He's revealed his plans through his word, through preachers and speakers, those who, I guess you could call those prophets as well. But he does also use dreams. But the way he used the dreams is not, again, the dream itself, but rather the person interpreting the dream being Joseph. And then let's skip down to our final section, starting in verse 33. This is the plan defined. This is where Joseph, being wise and having the discernment of what the dreams mean, given to him by God, makes a plan. He puts a plan into place. He does not dilly-dally along with it. He goes, okay, this is what we need to do, and he gives just really good planning information to Pharaoh. So now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. So look for a governor. Let Pharaoh do this. Let him appoint overseers over the land and take a fifth of the harvest of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. Let them gather all the excess food during these good years that are coming under Pharaoh's authority, store the grain in the cities, so they may preserve it as food. The food will be a reserve for the land during the 7 years of famine that will take place in the land of Egypt. Then the country will not be wiped out by the famine. The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. Well, we know that in verse 33, when Joseph says, let Pharaoh find a discerning and wise man, we know who that man is. We've met him already. We don't see this come to fruition in this lesson, but we know that to be Joseph. Joseph gets chosen to be governor, this wise and discerning man over Egypt, and he was the one in charge of organizing who was going to reserve the grain and preserve the grain for the 7-year famine that was coming. And so we have some leadership qualities here in Joseph that I think are very important for us. And first off, that is, there's a difference between seeing a problem and defining a solution. Anyone can complain. Anyone can see a problem. But sometimes it takes some extra discernment, some extra wisdom, some extra, maybe intelligence is a good word, to actually come up with a plan for a solution. I've heard it said before, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Don't just complain about a situation, but come up with a plan to fix that situation. Come up with a plan to move past that situation. So what's the difference between the two? Well, like I just said, one is just complaining. I can complain that the sanctuary is too hot or too cold on a Sunday morning, but the finding a solution to that would be actually having someone dynamically adjust the thermostat based on the people in the room. Are they fanning themselves because it's too hot? Are they shivering because it's too cold? And actually come up with a plan so that we're not just having a bunch of complaints, but rather we're getting covering our bases and that everyone is comfortable. What is the value then of proposing a plan when facing a challenge? Well, sometimes your plan is not going to be good. Sometimes your plan is going to be just not a good idea, but brainstorming is always a good thing. Getting plans out of your head onto paper, good or bad, it gets thoughts flowing, because as soon as you identify what a bad plan is, well, you can go, okay, what makes this a bad plan? And then you can do the opposite or change some things to make it a good plan, to plan around eventualities and things that might change, instances where, if you're thinking of logistics, maybe where are people going? How are they going to get there? What's the flow of traffic? If you think of city planners, the people who are paid to plan roadways in major cities like Dallas or Houston, we can gripe about traffic on I-45 or 635 or 610 in Houston. We can gripe about it all day long, but we're not the ones planning. We're the ones experiencing the traffic. The guy who is paid to be city planner, that's his job or her job to actually come up with the plan to fix the traffic issue, which normally requires expanding of roadways, which means construction, which means more traffic most of the time, especially if you've been through Austin or San Antonio on 35. It's just always bad. We know that to be true. So I guess our encouragement from our lesson today is to be one who discerns solutions, not just one who can identify problems, and wait on the Lord to give us discernment. Pray to the Lord to give us discernment and wisdom when it comes to facing challenges and struggles in our own lives. Thank you so much for being with me today. I look forward to worshiping with you very soon. Bye-bye.